Hello, this is Mike Burek, your host and producer of Krynytsia, The Well, a podcast series about interesting and noteworthy Ukrainians from around the globe. Today is Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. Our guests for this episode are Dr. Taras Mahlei, who is on the board of directors and president of the Ukrainian Museum and Archives in Cleveland, Ohio, and Andrei Fedinsky, who's director of UMA. This episode is produced for The Ukrainian Weekly, a newspaper published in English for the global Ukrainian community since 1933. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you.
Good, great today.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. So to start off with, if you could give our audience some information about your educational and professional backgrounds.
This is Andy Fedinsky. I grew up in the Ukrainian community in Cleveland, graduated from Cleveland Public Schools, and then attended the University of Notre Dame, largely because they had a sophomore studies program at the University of Innsbruck in the city where I was born to refugee parents in 1947. I taught in the Cleveland Public School system for 9 years, which gave me the opportunity to travel during the summer. I translated Ukrainian dissident literature for Smoloskip, worked closely with Osip Zienkiewicz, and then left the teaching profession when I was invited to work on Capitol Hill. And I worked for Senator Bob Dole, and then later became chief of staff for the congresswoman who represented Cleveland, Mary Rose Okar. I got a master's degree at John Carroll University, and I've been volunteer director at the Ukrainian Museum Archives for over 30 years now, and it's been very, very gratifying. Beautiful wife, son and daughter, and the opportunity to collaborate with people like Taras, which is also very gratifying.
Good day, everyone. Taras Mahlei here. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. My parents immigrated from Ukraine during World War II. Born and raised in Cleveland, then we lived in Parma, Ohio. Finished Ohio State. Then I went to medical school in Toledo, did my residency at the Cleveland Clinic, and I was working at University Hospitals of Cleveland for over 30 years. On top of that, I've been very active in the Ukrainian community here in Cleveland as a physician, doing exchange programs and going to Ukraine and teaching and volunteering in Ukraine. Over the past several years, became significantly more active. I'm also a musician. I play the bandura, part of the Ukrainian Banderas Chorus of North America, and also teach bandura at our school bandura school in Cleveland. And then I became active in the Ukrainian Museum, became a board member, and then president, and we have been very busy, even prior to the war, and now with the war, it's very busy because a lot of the American media, Cleveland, Ohio community looks to the Ukrainian Museum as their probably primary Cleveland source for Ukrainian information. That's pretty much my story, besides all the other Ukrainian activity both me and Andrei do in Cleveland, Ohio, and nationally. We're also both very active with advocacy, both politically and in the community for Ukraine.
I might add to what Taras said, not just nationally, but internationally. We've been contacted by the largest newspaper in Japan, and visited. Then we've been interviewed by Swiss radio, Czech radio, and American outlets like CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, etc.
That's great to hear that you have international recognition. So when was the Ukrainian Museum and Archives founded in Cleveland, and why?
Well, it was founded in 1952 by a displaced scholar, Leonid Baczynski. And the reason was, one, he had a very large collection. He was plugged into a network of similarly displaced scholars. In 1952, Stalin was still living, and Ukrainian culture was being deliberately and systematically stifled and in many cases destroyed. Leonid's brother had been the Ukrainian consul to Switzerland during the period when Ukraine was briefly independent, and he was also plugged into a network of scholars and given of displaced diplomats. And given the plight of Ukrainian culture and obviously the political environment, they felt an obligation with others like my father, Alexander, to preserve and share Ukrainian culture in the expectation that it would someday serve an independent Ukraine, and that's come true.
So, what distinguishes your museum collections from some of the other Ukrainian museums throughout the U.S. and indeed throughout the world?
Well, the network of scholars and displaced diplomats, as they began getting older, Leonid said, "Send all your stuff to Cleveland," and we ended up with a vast collection of historic publications, first editions from the 19th century of Drahomaniu, books from Vienna, obviously Lviv and Kyiv. So it's many of these publications had limited editions to begin with, and then were lost inevitably. We also have the largest collection of publications from the post-World War II displaced persons camps. So, and we have the usual embroidery and folk art, fine art. We have a collection of over 2,000 vinyl records. We have the collection of antique maps from the originals from the 17th and 18th centuries. It's posters, postage stamps, numismatics, etc.
And do you get scholars visiting the museum to do research?
Yes, we do, both from Ukraine. We just had a professor from the Ukrainian Catholic University who's a visiting professor at Notre Dame right now, University of Notre Dame. But we also have non-Ukrainians who are researching immigration, the Holodomor. We had a scholar from the University of Toronto about Ukrainians in World War I, Chernobyl, etc. So we do have, and we also get requests online. And given today's technology, we can digitize some of the publications and share them with scholars in Ukraine or wherever there's an interest.
And how is the museum funded?
The museum has been basically funded more from the community over the many years. Recently, we've had funding from the government, and we have the front museum. That building is over 100 years old, and we've been fixing that one. We built the archive museum part in the back, and it has a hall where we have our exhibitions, and in the basement we have humidity and temperature control for all our archives. This is the state-of-the-art area for our archives. We also had multiple families that have been very generous in leaving a substantial amount of money to support this project of archives and our museum. I'm not going to go over the list. It's on our website because I do not want to miss anyone. During the war, we've again had some nice donations come in, but we have really not been fundraising too much because I'm going to also plug on a partner organization that works with us. It's called the Cleveland Maidan Association. That's a humanitarian organization that ships medical aid to Ukraine, and their headquarters is in our museum. And obviously, with the war going on, our focus on collecting money is to help Ukraine. But our archives as Andriy always states, and our museum. I mean, what are we fighting for? Yes, we're fighting for people, our people in Ukraine, but we're also fighting for our national identity, our culture, our books, our art. So we are focusing that we need to preserve these items. We just received a federal grant of $500,000 to redo our garage. We have a third building, which is our garage storage, and we're going to turn that into a preservation center. So that's, again, a done deal. So we have multiple sources of funding for the museum. I hope that the war will be done soon and we'll be able to focus more on even more funds to help digitalize, to catalog all our archives. With this war going on, we've also been getting more in than we can get online and catalog and archive everything. We have a part-time librarian, and we have interns that are working. And then we also have a curator that helps out. We have an office manager that helps out. And we have a staff. And the museum is open Tuesday through Saturday. 9 to 3 is our hours for people to come and visit.
If I could add to us, having worked on Capitol Hill for more than 12 years on a lot of projects for the city of Cleveland, including the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Cleveland Museum of Art, etc., I knew where the money was and how to get it. And we emphasize that we're not just a Ukrainian museum, we're an American museum. And over the course of the last couple of decades, we've gotten grants from the federal government, the state government, county, Cuyahoga County, in excess of $2 million. So that's allowed us to, nearly all of this money is for capital, although some of it is for operating. So we've been rather successful, I would say, in that. And of course, as Taras mentioned, we have generous support from the community.
Does your Ukrainian museum collaborate with other Ukrainian museums in the U.S. and outside of the U.S.?
Oh, sure. We've lent some of our collections. We have original prints of Alexander Archipenko. In fact, we have three statues of his, but we've lent those to the Institute in New York, the Ukrainian Institute. We've lent some of our artifacts to the New York Museum when they did the 30th anniversary of Ukraine's independence. We participate in conferences at the Library of Congress with our counterpart universities. We have a partnership with the Ostrog Academy in Ukraine. We work with the Ukrainian Catholic University, etc. And a lot of this is ad hoc, responding to requests for artifacts or materials, but some of it is formal with Ohio State University's Slavic Studies Department. And we worked with KU Mohila in line with our mission to preserve and share Ukrainian culture.
I was going to add a little bit more to that, but if we're kind of running out of time, but I just want to say about our events. We have an exhibit in our exhibit hall. Every several months we change that. We have events probably almost weekly, from political events, from senators, congressmen coming. We just recently had the ambassador from Estonia. We have international events that are going on in Cleveland. They use our museum to host receptions. We have Ukrainian scholars coming in giving lectures. We also have other community events that use our facility.
And we worked with the Cleveland Council on World Affairs, the City Club Forum. We have I would, without boasting too much, we have a solid reputation And obviously, given the importance, the strategic geopolitical importance of Ukraine, we're often the go-to institution here in not just Cleveland, but Ohio, all around.
Gentlemen, unfortunately, we're just about out of time, but I did want to find out what have been the major challenges for the Ukrainian Museum in Cleveland.
Well, I would say managing the onslaught of donations, and as Taras mentioned, digitizing, cataloging to meet the demand. And Taras, you may want to add, I'm sure you talked the other day about we need more personnel.
Yeah, well, we need to find good professional that can work both in English and Ukrainian to catalog these archives. Having events and having a museum, there's some difficulties with that, but we're managing that without a problem. The biggest thing is this archive to preserve our culture. And funding is always an issue, but also finding good staff to do the correct preserving all these archives.
Andy and Taras, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on Krynytsia.
And we want to thank you, Michael, for hosting us.
Yeah, thank you. And please visit our website. And we are open for business for people to use us as a resource. So give us a call, email us, go through our website. Thank you.
And our website is umacleveland.org.
That was my last question. Thank you so much. I have been speaking with Dr. Taras Mahlei, who is with the Board of Directors and President of the Ukrainian Museum and Archives in Cleveland, and Andy Fedinsky, who's Director of the museum. I'm Mike Burek, your host and producer of Krynytsia, The Well, a podcast series about interesting and noteworthy Ukrainians from around the globe. This episode is produced for The Ukrainian Weekly, a newspaper published in English for the global Ukrainian community since 1933. Until next time, that's all for now.